I'm Clyde Lewis. Welcome to Ground Zero Behind the Scenes. Today, I am in a weird mood. I'm always in a weird mood because I got some strange numbers going through my head and all kinds of other craziness. Coming up on Easter Sunday, it's going to be 3/31/13. 3/31/13. What was really odd about that is I saw that the other night when I was reading about the Pope. And of course, the Pope was elected on 3/13/13. But if you take 3/31/13, it's kind of like the Obverse of 3/13/13. And so I was looking at that going, that's kind of bizarre. What's that all about? Is there some significance? I mean, should I look into this? Well, I did, and I found some very interesting things about the time span between the Pope's election and Easter. That's going to add up to 18 days. So 8 plus 1 is 9. 9, of course, is the satanic number, according to Anton LaVey. And if you look at it, too, in another way, it's 6 plus 6 plus 6, which adds up 666. And, you know, of course, we get into this whole idea of the esoteric and the strangeness about what it's all about. Well, I got to thinking about 13, 31, you know, all the numbers, and of course, if you play with them, it comes up with something called the Stargate number, where you can bracket it with an 11, and it's like, you know, if you're a numerologist, you understand all this, and really, I don't understand all of it. But the truth of the matter is that what it signifies is that we are coming to a place where the numbers get a little odd right before April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day used to be the first New Year's Day. But if people still celebrated it, they were called April Fools because they changed it to January 1st, which was symbolic of the idea of a Saturnalian move where Saturn would decide to kill you if he felt it was your time to go. Well, I got to reading about the whole significance of lighting the fires and the celebrations of the New Year and the Fool's Day and everything else, and all these numbers started coming at me, like the 13s, the 3s, and also the idea that April was a cruel month of attacks and bloodshed, and there's all kinds of significance with this. And I got to finding some interesting information about the Yucatan and how they used to celebrate, like the Mayans did, something called the 13 Ahau. The 13 Ahau and the Wayeb calendar somehow come together on 3/31/13, which I find interesting, and it happens like every 52 years or so. Well, the last time the calendars came together like that, 52 years ago, was in 1962, okay? And in 1962, for those of you that are history buffs, you know that 1962 was the year in October where we had a 13-day standoff with Cuba over their missiles being pointed at the United States.
Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere.
It was a big deal. Kennedy did a speech, and it was really kind of a scary time as we were watching the TV wondering if Cuba was going to strike.
On October 16th, the CIA informed President John F. Kennedy that high-altitude U-2 spy planes had discovered the construction of Soviet missile launching pads being set up in the interior of Cuba. Navy Crusader jets, flying dangerous low-level reconnaissance over Cuba, confirmed the presence of these weapons of mass destruction.
Well, right now, here we are some 52 years later. We've already come to this 13 Ahau, or Baktun, or Waheb, or whatever you want to call it, this strange calendar the Yucatan, Central America was following. And you see that now we're at the same precipice over nuclear war with North Korea. North Korea has their arms ready to go. They're gonna fire on us. They're giving us all these strange titles, these strange cities. They give us all these strange cities where they're allegedly going to fire on us. And I'm laughing at this, going, "Is this all theater?"
North Korea took some time away from not feeding its own people and torturing government critics to threaten the United States with nuclear war. According to North Korean state media, a foreign ministry spokesman today said Kim the Younger's regime will, quote, exercise its right, unquote, to carry out a preemptive nuclear strike on Washington, D.C., which he called the headquarters of the enemy.
놈들이 감히 우리의 영토 용에 단 한 발의 포탄이라도 떨기만 하면 우리 전체 인민내무군 장병들은 벼락같이 달려나가 쌓이고 쌓인 원한을 풀고 민족의 수건을 반드시 성취하고야 말 것입니다.
Good evening. Perhaps because they have tried before and failed, perhaps because they could now conceivably strike the west coast of the United States. When North Korea successfully fired off a multi-stage ballistic missile late last night, it got the world's attention and it set off a lot of alarms. The U.S. has condemned it along with much of the rest of the world. And while the U.S. is now technically within range, so are a lot of other countries that are much closer.
North Korea has warned of a full-fledged confrontation with Washington, promising to conduct a rocket launch and a nuclear test targeting the U.S. The threats come a day after the UN Security Council expanded U.S.-backed sanctions against Pyongyang for its rocket launch in December. And for more on the story, I'm now joined live by political analyst Niall Bowie. Niall, very nice to have you on the program. So how much of a threat does North Korea really pose to the U.S. and its allies?
I don't believe it possesses very much of a threat to the United States. Many military analysts have commented on the obsolete nature of most of North Korea's military hardware. Most of it is based on old Soviet designs. And although their long-range missile technology has improved in recent years, I don't think that they have the capability to directly attack the United States from where they are. I think really the danger is much greater for the people in South Korea.
The Unha-3 may represent the most advanced technology we've ever seen come out of North Korea. About 105 feet tall, weight 175,000 pounds at liftoff, and payload of 220 pounds. More importantly, when you look at this, you realize what they've done here. They've launched a 3-stage liquid fuel rocket all the way up and put a satellite into orbit, which even now is circling the Earth. They've been working 14 years toward this moment, and when you combine it with their nuclear weapons program, a lot of nations are getting worried. Let me bring in a map, and I'll show you why. Up until this point, when the North Koreans have talked about a ballistic missile, we've pretty much figured it's something they could fire here, and it would go about 4,000 miles, so the outermost ring here may be to the edge of Alaska on a good day, if everything went right for them. But now, with this one, we're talking about 6,000 miles. The ring goes out further, and now you're talking about maybe reaching Washington State, Oregon, California. I think a lot of things have to go right for that to happen.
Is this what I call theater of the obverse, where you're seeing some strange reversals in numbers, and we're looking through the glass darkly, and we're wondering if Easter Sunday is going to be kind of a strange day, because not only does it fall on the day where Christ was crucified and resurrected from the dead, the number 13 and its combinations, especially when they're inverted, especially if you're looking at like a tarot card, the 13 tarot card, it represents death and resurrection, or death and restoration, or destruction and restoration. And then, of course, that was the same thing they thought of when they were celebrating the new year on April 1st, that the old year was the time to destroy old things, and the new year was the time to celebrate new things. So if you're a fool and decide to celebrate the new year on April 1st, then what you're really doing is you're separating the destruction of one thing and the revival and resurrection of another. So it's kind of ironic that this Easter falls the day before April Fool's Day. I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero Behind the Scenes.